The story continued, and hearing all of previous things, Alicia just keeps gazing out the window with an amused look on her face. She concludes that the gods don't give you everything after all. So, Sir Duncan goes to check what she's staring at and is immediately stunned. Looking out the window, they can see Vlad struggling to stay on the back of a horse like he's at one of those bullfighting competitions. Jagger just watches in the background, feeling very disappointed. So, Sir Duncan can already feel the advanced knight's anguish. Our boy eventually gets thrown off the horse and lands on his back. From the look on his face, you can imagine just how much it hurts, and you got to feel for the kid because he just got out of a brutal duel a while ago. Vlad takes a breather while rubbing his back in agony, but Yerger just reminds him that he said he could ride an expensive horse. Our boy just hits back, suggesting that maybe the horse needs to be a little more expensive. As you can imagine, the short-tempered knight has had enough of Vlad's annoying remarks, so he lands an insane blow on the back of his vassal's head. As he punches him, he advises the kid to think a little before speaking. Vlad groans in pain before arguing that he was able to get in the horse the last time he tried. However, it was Goth who steered at that time. While our boy is trying to explain this, his loyal friend Goth chimes in to defend him, claiming that he actually got on the horse. Upon hearing this, Sir Yerger realizes just how serious the situation is. He initially believed that he'd be able to teach Vlad how to ride a horse by himself. So now that nothing is working, he starts to wonder if the horse might actually be the problem. He sees Go trying to get the horse back to Vlad and realizes that the animal is even backing away from his vassal. Heck, this horse is even shooting death glares at our boy. Yerger starts to think that maybe there's something ahead that the horse is afraid of. And since he doesn't know what that is for now, he draws the curtains on their training for the day. Vlad asks if they'll practice tomorrow. And surprisingly, the advanced knight suggests that they skip training for the following day, too. Our boy is very confused when he hears Yerger say this, so he asks the knight when he'll learn how to ride a horse. In response, Yerger explains that they're delaying that part of the training for now. So Vlad reveals that he's heard those words way too many times since he arrived in Damar. The hot-headed knight bluntly asks him if he has a problem with it. So Vlad decides to get on Yerger's nerves by claiming that he does have a little problem with it. Upon hearing this, the frustrated knight just sighs, realizing that there's no quick fix for his squire's bratty character. Jagger just starts walking away, suggesting that they think about the issue when they get back to Sturma, especially since he has work to do later in the day. When the knight exits the scene, Go finally asks Vlad why horses seem to hate him even more as time goes on. At this point, our boy is becoming worried because he's afraid that even the more expensive horses won't let him ride them either. Seeing the way things are going, Goth randomly suggests that Vlad tries riding a cow. He thinks it should be easier since cows are definitely duller than horses. But our boy just feels insulted by this idea. He accuses Go of just yapping all the time and scolds him, telling him to think a little before he speaks. Of course, Goth heard when Yerger said this earlier, so he hits back at that blonde swordsman and mocks him for continually riding in a carriage when other knights are riding horses. Go taunts him with this, saying that he's sure Yerger would love that. Seeing that Vlad doesn't appreciate his help, he reveals that he'll get going, so he takes the horse back to its stable. Seeing how much the horse dislikes him and how Go just switched up on him, Vlad begins to wonder what the problem could actually be. That's when the voice chimes in and suggests that the problem might be that our boy is moving too fast. He holds the sword and the voice continues to speak, telling him how animals tend to be more sensitive to that. Perplexed by the situation, Vlad asks the voice what he should do, so it tells him that he needs to learn how to control his momentum. The voice explains that this is one of the ways to control the mental world, claiming that if he can use aura freely, then he can control his momentum. This whole idea is a bit too difficult for Vlad right now since he can't even consciously draw his aura out. And even when he does, the aura itself is pretty faint. In response, the voice assures him that this is natural, explaining that using it in real battles requires training and mastery. The voice then reminds him of Yerger's words, which is basically saying that he should try running before he can walk. Vlad takes in all of this and decides, feeling a bit overwhelmed. He suddenly remembers that they're supposed to return to Sturma after the farewell ceremony the following day. So, he stares at the tree on the hill and wonders if he should go back there one more time before leaving Damar. Inside the mansion, the purple-haired knight Jubert convinces himself that the Lord will understand after hearing his condition. Even though he failed his mission, He walks down the halls with this at the back of his mind, feeling that you can't actually blame the sea for making waves after all. In his defense, the stuff that happened during the duel was kind of an unfortunate accident. After all, nobody could have predicted that Vlad's flower would bloom that day. The more Joubert thinks about it, the more ridiculous it is to him. The fact that a lowly vassal could cause so much commotion is something he still can't comprehend. All of a sudden, his stroll is interrupted when Yerger holds a sword at his neck. Joubert claims that it's a pretty aggressive hello and assures the advanced knight that he didn't have to go this far. Joubert's eyes glint with mischief, so Yerger is convinced that he actually has to go this far. The purple-haired knight asks him how long he waited there, wondering if he doesn't have anything else to do. So, Yerger informs him that today is his day off. Joubert suggests that what he's doing is a waste of his day, so the one-eyed knight retorts, claiming that he has to catch up on delayed work on his day off. The mischievous knight calmly stands there and admits that he understands why Yerger is so upset. But then again, he claims that he had no other choice. So, the advanced knight taunts him, calling their encounter a coincidence because he also doesn't have much of a choice right now. All of a sudden, Joubert uses his finger to slowly push Yerger's sword away, claiming that the situation must be really upsetting. He then reminds Yerger that they have the same job, so he expects him to understand this at least. But the green-eyed knight reveals that he's just following orders because if the master tells him to bark, then he has to bark. The two knights suddenly begin to draw out their aura. Joubert's eyes begin to glow, and the same happens with Yerger, and they both stand each other off. The cunning knight tries to intimidate Yerger, but Bro doesn't back down, so Joubert takes the hint and stops using his aura. He raises his arms in surrender when he sees that Mr. Eye Patch means business and then claims that Jagger's warning is enough. Even though Joubert just surrendered, the advanced knight doesn't move the sword away from his neck. So, he decides to use his words. The purple-haired guy suddenly talks about how wrong it is that people call them swordsmen. But just when he thinks he's about to say something to pacify Yerger, he tells the green-eyed knight that he's also a dog that only bites when his master tells him to. With a very condescending look in his eyes, he tells Yerger to enjoy his day off if he's done barking. He's confident that the knight won't hurt him because he knows that the slightest amount of bloodshed would be a declaration of war against the Shazer family. However, before he can even finish this sentence, Yerger punches him right in the face, knocking him to the floor in the process. Joubert groans as he hits the floor while the green-eyed knight just taunts him, claiming that one little bite is fine since his lord is a nice man. He says this and then charges at Joubert again. The crafty knight tries to mock him, asking if the punch to the face is enough for him, but Yerger just delivers another deadly punch. This time he goes straight for his guts as he reveals that he's not yet done beating him. At this point, Joubert is struggling to breathe. She falls to the ground again and begins to cough uncontrollably. Yerger tells Joubert that he expects him to understand why he's doing this since they're in the same industry after all. The crafty knight eventually gets back up and finally admits that this beating should be enough for him. Hearing this, the advanced knight admits that he hopes they can meet again, especially since he can't make him pay completely for mocking Joseph while they're still in the Heidel mansion. Joubert slowly gets back on his feet, holding his belly, and boldly agrees that they'll meet again sooner or later. He says this because he knows that the Empire is falling apart, and this means that people will band together, even if they don't want to. So, the chances of meeting again are pretty high. The mischievous knight limos away from Yerger and just waves him goodbye, saying they'll see each other soon. Hearing this, the advanced knight just agrees, thinking about how that time is surely coming. The time when the sword will be needed more than ever, and a time when their lands will be ravaged by war and death. Meanwhile, outside the mansion, we see that our boy has returned to the tree in the graveyard. He stands before the tree and claims that the spirit they met the last time seemed like an old friend. So, he suggests that the voice in his head tries talking to it again. In response, the voice admits that he honestly can't believe that the snake recognized him. He was also very shocked. Either way, Vlad thinks that they should have a quick look and leave before they run into the princess again because he knows that they can't afford the kind of trouble it would cause them. Vlad quickly kneels before the tree and plants the sword in the ground like he did the last time as he prepares to let the voice take over his body again. Our boy's eyes begin to glow at that moment, and immediately the white serpent appears in front of him. He's taken aback by how fast it was and even more startled by how close the snake is to his face. Vlad does his best to stay cool and then asks the voice to confirm that this spirit is his friend, but the guy in his head isn't even sure. He just hopes that the snake is friendly. All of a sudden, the white serpent spirit circles the young swordsman like he's an egg. As you'd expect, he's not really comfortable with this, but he just tries to assume that this gesture is the snake's way of greeting him. The voice also believes that he should be correct. So, while they're still speculating, the blue-eyed snake stops and stares right into Vlad's eyes. It gazes at him and then squints. In general, the snake just starts acting weird. So, the young swordsman asks why that's happening. In response, the voice just tells him not to even try understanding spirits because they're another form of the world. The snake keeps acting strangely, shaking its head all over the place. And the voice tells him that the feeble soul of a mortal cannot understand all that encompasses the world. And this is pretty obvious at this point. The glowing snake suddenly starts to go higher and begins some weird dance ritual which causes the grasses and the tree to also start glowing. Even the air is suddenly filled with a strange energy, and when Vlad feels it, he realizes that it's actually warm. This is all very confusing to him, but then he suddenly realizes something. The energy surrounds him, and he suddenly begins to understand exactly what it is. Even the voice realizes what's happening and admits that he's surprised because he didn't expect to see a forgotten enigma there. It turns out that this is the spirit's blessing, and the voice confirms it as the glowing snake maintains its focus on the young boy from Sarah. After that magical experience, the scene shifts and we see Mr. Joseph leaving with his people. Before they depart, they go to see Princess Alicia, who admits that she's very embarrassed to see them off in this manner. She wishes that she could have held a huge banquet for them, and she expresses this feeling. But Joseph assures her that her intentions are enough for him and his people. He totally understands her situation because this is exactly the time for her to fix the cracks in the Heinel family. Hearing his kind words, Alicia appreciates his understanding and sincerely thanks him for everything. The representatives of the Ba family take one last bow, and Joseph reveals that they'll be leaving now. However, just when they're about to walk away, Sir Duncan asks for a minute of their time. He suddenly asks Vlad to come forward, which leaves our blonde hero quite puzzled. He looks at his masters for permission, and Joseph grants it, telling him to go on. As Vlad walks down to meet Sir Duncan, Yerger suggests that their hosts must have prepared a ceremony. The young master agrees and reveals that he told them to keep the closing ceremony simple just in case they went forward with it. Sir Duncan tells Vlad to kneel when he gets to them. So, the kid does exactly that. That's when Princess Alicia expresses her gratitude to the boy from Sarah. She admits that without him, she wouldn't even be standing there, and then praises him for protecting their honor. Alicia also commends him for shining light over a duel that was blotted with fraud. The princess believes that no amount of gratitude could make up for what he has done for her. So, she humbly offers him what she can. Alicia stretches out her hands with a purple handkerchief in them and then informs Vlad that she wants to entrust her name to him even though he's not a knight. She claims that he was even more honorable than a knight. And while she's saying all of this, Joseph realizes that it's just as he expected. He knows that she's a smart woman, so he understands that she's trying to prove her relationship with Bezid by having a common prospect like Vlad. In other words, this clever princess is showing gratitude and taking advantage of it at the same time. Meanwhile, our boy raises his head to see the handkerchief and is beyond disappointed that this is the so-called valuable reward he's getting. Bro can't even hide his displeasure because he's frowning without even knowing it. He's not sure if he's just supposed to accept the handkerchief from her. I mean, he's still pretty new to all of this knight stuff. Thankfully, he quickly remembers the time that Yerger told him to always accept stuff from nobles because it's proper courtesy. The memory rings in his head like a bell, and he also remembers how he got lectured the time he refused Mr. Rudiger's peanuts. As such, he's not willing to receive another beating from his brutal master, so he accepts the handkerchief and thanks the princess for it. Van's probably wondering what he'll even need the piece of cloth for. But then again, it's proper courtesy, so it's not like he has a choice. Anyway, it seems that our boy might still be in trouble because the moment he takes the cloth from Alicia, everyone around gasps in shock. Eager looks like he just got a headache, while Joseph just gets nervous because he forgot to tell the boy from the back alleys how to act around nobles. And equally exhausted, Sir Duncan finally informs Vlad that he just accepted the gift the wrong way. The blonde kid has no idea what the old man means. Well, it turns out that there are two ways a lady passes on a handkerchief that symbolizes her honor. The first way is by hanging the piece of cloth at the end of the sword, while the second method is by passing it to him from hand to hand. At this point, Vlad realizes that he messed up. And as he turns around to see all the judging eyes, he nervously asks how he's supposed to do it. We also learn that these two methods have different meanings because while the first one at the sword end is for honor, the second hand-to-hand method is for love. After the awkward moment, Princess Alicia gets flustered as her cheeks flush red, but Vlad is still trying to process everything. Man's so confused right now because he doesn't know that he basically just confessed love to the princess. Either way, Vlad decides to be Vlad and mischievously claims that he'll use the handkerchief. Well, wondering why the guys at the back are making such a big deal out of it. On the carriage ride home, the young master admits that he hasn't been that flustered in a long time. He also feels that he's at fault for not teaching the young squire, and he also jokes about how the wandering minstrels won't have to worry about making a living in Khmer for a while. Our boy apologizes for what happened, but Yerger still scolds him, telling him to always look at him first if he's ever to receive something from a noble in public. He agrees to keep that in mind, but Joseph suddenly congratulates him. Our boy doesn't get why, so the young master reminds him that he's now a man honored by a high-ranking noble lady, Alicia. In other words, the boy from Sarah has now risen to the rank of an honorary knight. At the start of this series, our hero is just a boy from the slums, and now he has progressed all the way to the rank of a knight. The story resumes, and as you can imagine, the young boy from Sarah is utterly shocked when he hears that he will become an honorary knight. However, the young master casually explains that Fly will be treated like a knight in places where Alicia's name is recognized and revered. This is still really big news to the young blonde swordsman. He can't believe that he will be made a knight of any sort, at least not at this age, and it's such a crazy feeling that just overwhelms him. While he's trying to comprehend the current situation, Joseph chimes in again, suggesting that Vlad's knighthood will basically be limited to Khmer since Alicia just became a baron. At this point, our boy finally understands the situation and almost seems relieved when he realizes what being an honorary knight means. He knows that becoming a real knight can never be that easy. Flat holds the purple handkerchief that Alicia gave him as he pursed deeply about everything. The young master interrupts these thoughts by reminding our boy that he got the gift because of a mistake.